Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar where we will be talking about women in tech sales, breaking barriers and achieving success. And since I'm a woman in tech myself, I'm really looking forward to this and to hear what Anita has in store for us. Before we dig in, I just wanted to let you know that this session will be recorded. And also, if you look on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you will see chat. My colleague Livia is in there. So if you have any problems, just send her a message. And you'll also see some GIFs in there that will help you to navigate the platform. And yeah, feel free to have a discussion in there, chat, go wild. And then in the same panel down there, you'll also see a little icon for questions. So please ask your questions in there. You can ask at any stage during the webinar, and we will answer them during the Q&A time. If you ask it in chat, we might miss it. So it's best to send it in there. All right. So today I have Anita with me, and she works as an IT security sales manager for Atea, which is the biggest IT infrastructure and services company in the Nordic and Baltic regions. So quite a big deal. And on a personal note, she also has 2 boys, and she's a knockout in the boxing ring. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear from her. But before I put Anita on stage, I would love to hear your thoughts. There's a whiteboard here, and I would love for you to tell me what you feel the barriers are that women in sales face and the advantages that women in tech have. Just setting it up quickly, but there'll be space to type soon. Let's see. And you can type directly on screen. Should work for everyone. So I'll start. Let's see. Neutral empathy makes us great. Oh, natural empathy makes us great. Yes, absolutely. And a hurdle, no matter your job, you still have to do laundry. Tech sales isn't a career path suggested to girls at school. So true, right? It's normally you have to become a teacher or a nurse, and I'm hoping that that's changing. Anita, feel free to share your thoughts too if you want.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good. I had some noise problems as usual in every presentation.
No, now we can hear you.
I love that tech sales isn't a career path suggested to girls at schools, because that's so true.
So true. I didn't know it existed at school.
No, me neither.
Good at multitasking, absolutely. As a mom, I can say that is so true, and I'm sure you agree, Anita.
Yeah.
Patience.
Patience, that's a good word.
Yeah. Cut out the maybes, focus on the yes and no's. Hurdle. Oh, we've got more people joining. Oh, and more. Hi, everyone who joined late. Just to let you know, we're busy with an interactive exercise where we're talking about the hurdles of being a woman in tech and the advantages of being a woman in tech.
No matter your job title, you still have to do laundry. I would love to see what you mean with that one.
Yeah, well, as a mom, yes. All the house things still waits at the end of the workday. And even though I must say I'm very lucky because I have a man in my life who helps me so much around the house, but yeah, he won't do laundry. Credibility of knowledge. Oh, we've got more people.
I love that credibility and knowledge. That's true.
Yeah. Nice. Let's see. Everyone feels so busy. I don't know. Should we give it another minute or shall we move on? Let's see.
I think we can give it a minute.
Tenacity. Yes. So true. Advantages. And I really like that one about natural empathy. I think that makes such a difference in the workplace. And I don't know, Anita, if you agree that in sales, that probably gives you a bit of an edge. Like if you're a good, as a mom, at least, you have to listen, you need to multitask, you need to have empathy. And I think those are skills you can use in the workplace. What do you think?
I think exactly the same, because if you have natural empathy, you would be a great salesperson because you will sell the things that makes the customer better. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, and you can actually listen to exactly what they need and
understand them.
So true. All right.
Usually better listening skills. Yes.
So true. And so I think talking skills or communication skills in general, I think women are quite good at that.
Yeah, we can be.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't mind small talk. All right. So hello to everyone who have just joined. We're busy with the interactive exercise, but I think we will soon be moving on to our presentation. Anita, when we introduced you, I think you were still on mute and trying to figure out the sound. I don't know if there's something you wanted to add.
No, probably not. I guess you did a good job.
I love that you're a boxer. It's so cool.
No, I'm not a boxer. My oldest son is a boxer.
Oh, I thought you were. Like, what a workout and way to get rid of work frustrations. Conveying authority. Yeah, that can be a hurdle. I can see that. Women are often, I guess, a bit softer. All right, Anita, what do you think? Shall we
move on, maybe.
Move on. And so Anita will soon have will take center stage, but there's a little video just to give you an introduction of Atea, the company where Anita works. It's very, very well known where I live here in Norway, and I think all through Scandinavia. But for those from other parts of the world, you're probably not familiar with Atea. So, yeah. Oh, when I play the video, you'll there's a little unmute button in the bottom left corner of the video. So if you don't hear anything, just press on unmute. Okay, let's play it.
How lucky we are to be able to live and work in this part of the world. It's like winning the national lottery. Yet we don't wake up every day feeling thankful. For us, life is easy. That's because our parents decided we should lead a better life than they did. Imagine if we did the same thing, gave our children an even brighter future by supporting all our dedicated teachers so that they can provide better education for generations to come, by giving healthcare's greatest minds the technology they require based on their needs wherever they are. Imagine if we can strengthen our industry, meeting the demands of tomorrow, and by doing so saving jobs. By finding new ways to produce all the energy we need without polluting our environment. We want to improve our important infrastructure, not only for us who travel, but for the people getting us where we need to go. And make things easier for all the farmers who tend our fields and livestock, putting healthy food on our tables. We at Atea have made a decision. We want to build a better future.
Nice. Anita, are you
Yes.
ready?
Okay,
All right, I'm going to load your presentation.
thank you.
Anita, you can change the slides as you go.
Yes, thank you. So I have to say thanks for the introduction, Carla, and I hope the video gave you a short overview of what we work in within Atea. And before I start, I just want to say thanks for having me, because I'm humble and grateful for the opportunity to be able to talk here. And maybe I hope that the more women will take the path within tech sales after this. And I hope it will be interesting and give you some value. If you have any questions, you can write them down and I will answer them at the end of the presentations. And I hope that you're not shy, because I love questions at the end of a presentation. And by saying that, I think we will just start. I have a short agenda and it looks like this. I will start to talk a little bit about Atea, because Atea is a big part of my tech journey. I have been working here since I was a student, and the company has supported me along the way. I will talk a little bit about who I am, my education path, and my journey in the tech industry as a woman, and touch upon some goals and advice at the end. I have a little issue that I sometimes talk really fast, so if I do that today, I guess we will just have time for more questions at the end. So you got a little overview in the video that the Carla showed in the beginning. And it's important that we understand that technology changes drastically every year now, and we see that in the next 20 years, our everyday lives will change more than the previous 300. And I think that's a wild thought, because think about how different life will be for us in 20 years, technology-wise. And I think we're pretty lucky to be able to experience that. And my son actually asked me yesterday that maybe we finally will get to experience all the flying cars we have seen in the movies about the future. Maybe. But the point here is that we highly depend on technology to make our everyday work. And in Atea, we say we have a mission. We want to strengthen our future generations. We want to work with technology so that our moms and granddads and grandmothers can be able to live home for longer with different welfare technology. We work with kids and the young in schools with robotics, so we can help them be a part of the classroom, even if they are sick. We help ambulance workers communicate with the hospital before they arrive. And during COVID, we helped organizations be able to drive on from home. And one thing we're really proud of is that in the backbone of all of that, we are one of the world's most sustainable companies. And I think that is what makes Atea a great company for me, because we have the right mission, we have the right values. And for me, I need to believe in what I do, because I think to be able to continue to develop and thrive and learn, you have to find meaning. Our everyday life has to mean something for us to be good. I think that's equal for women and men. And with Atea values, that gives me meaning and contributes to me always giving my best effort. So I hope that will give you a short overview in what Atea is, because we are really proud of that. And I think that Atea have worked with me every step of the way and helped me achieve the success I have today in the tech sales industry. So then I will move along. So a little bit about myself. I have to start with that I think it's kind of cool that I've been born in the 8th of March, International Women's Day. When I grew up, I thought it was kind of annoying because everybody congratulated everyone. And I guess I wanted all the attention for myself. But today I see the meaning and I gladly share all the congratulations. I grew up with 3 siblings, 2 boys and a girl. And I think that is the thing that made me like the sore winner and loser I am today. Because we competed about everything. We all wanted to be the best, and second place was actually never an option. And I also grew up with this pretty lady on the right hand. This was a single mom who always worked hard. She allowed us to fail over and over again with everything we did, but she never allowed us to quit something. So even if we failed, we weren't allowed to quit. And I think that's the most valuable lesson I have ever learned. And I will come a little bit back to that afterwards. Colin mentioned I have 2 boys at home today, and I promise you that I will never let them win anything on purpose. They don't even want to play games with me anymore. But I think it will be easier for them in the long run. I want to learn them to have like good values, to be curious, to be engaged and responsible. And I don't think I will teach them that by making life easier for them. Today I have worked in Atea for 6 years, and my role today is, like Carla mentioned already, is the IT security sales manager for the southwest region of Norway. And that is a role I have had about approximately 1 year today. Let me see. Education. I want to say actually a little fun fact, because Carla's husband was my teacher at Norway where I went to school, and today works with me in Atea. So that's kind of cool, I think. When we talk about education, I always wished I was one of those kids who knew what they wanted to be as long as they could remember, like a doctor, a veterinarian, an entrepreneur. It sounds a little bit easier for me if you know the way. However, for me, that was a no, because I was one of those girls who followed just the paths of others. I wanted to be a hairdresser because my best friend wanted to be a hairdresser. I wanted to work in healthcare because most of my friends wanted to. And I didn't want to stand out in any way. And actually, I didn't think much about it, because when I was growing up, that was so far-fetched in the future, so I didn't think about it. I always felt that I was never gonna grow up, so the timeline was too long for me, and before I knew it, I was grown up, and I had to think about it. And at that time, my grades in school wasn't especially good, so I didn't get in to be a hairdresser or in the healthcare business. So what I did, that I studied and educated myself as a florist. Don't ask me why, because to this day I have one plant at home and it's not a real one because I can't keep anything alive. And I quickly understood that that was not the right path for me, not the right choice. So I started marketing management because it sounded interesting, but I actually quickly fell off that train too because it wasn't that interesting after all. I then started travel management at a local university, and I kind of liked that. I was positive, and after almost 3 years of studying, the oil crisis came upon us in Norway, and that meant that the tourism market was quickly put on hold. Businesses put their employees on leave. It was not the right time. It was not not a good choice to be in travel marketing. At this time, I think it was in 2016, and I remember my stepdad told me every day I was starting to get old, I had to think about what I was going to do. And I had new perspective on things. I wanted to do something that gave me meaning, something that would make me want Mondays instead of weekdays. And I know that's a cliche, but I wanted that, something that made me successful and not dependent on anyone. And as only Google can, I started to Google because Google solves every problem I have. And it was actually by accident I came across IT security. And I read something about it, and it sounded kind of cool. I read different articles, and it was mentioned that IT was the new oil, the new future. Everything was dependent on technology, and technology had to be safe. And at that time, I knew nothing about technology, nothing. I did one thing with a computer, and this was in 2016, so it's not that long ago, actually. And that one thing I did, that was to log into Facebook. I then called the school that was Nordhoff at this time, if someone heard of that, and asked if I needed any knowledge beforehand. And they told me I did not. So I applied and then got in. And I remember I was so excited. I even posted a post about it on Facebook that I would never have done today, but I had to find it for this presentation. So I found it. I scrolled down for a long time. And for the people who don't understand Norwegian, it says, "Yay, a new era, 2 short years at Norway to become an ICT genius, accepted and approved. Now the summer can only come." Maybe not my best status, however, it shows that I was pretty proud at that point. Let me see. And when I started after the summer and after all of this, I was determined to ask a lot of questions. I had like this almost a natural energy level because I was so hyped. I was sure that this was my path. I think I was about 27 years old. So yeah, and then I had my first lection, and I got names as the CPU, servers, Microsoft AD. And I didn't know what that meant. So I asked, what is a server? What does CPU stand for? And all of the first class I asked, and I learned a lot that first class. But at the end of that, I hear from the back row, are we really going to put up with this blonde girl who's going to quit before Christmas? She's not annoying. Give me a break. And I turned around, and I was the only girl in the class, so everyone knew who he was talking about. And after a minute or two, I was so mad that I took my soda bottle. And I have to say that this is not my proudest moment, so it's just a story, not an advice to do the same thing. But I took the soda bottle and I threw it at this boy's face. it was empty, so it didn't do any harm, except I think maybe I got an enemy from life. And that boy was actually my first encounter with how some people's opinions and thoughts are old-fashioned and just at a low point. However, I think it made me even more determined on like acing this because I was going to show him. So I started to ask even more questions, and I guess he quickly regretted his comments that day. So after a few years at Norway, when I studied system administration and IT security, we had to start to think about where we wanted to work, what kind of industry. Were we going to be programmers, digital investigators, consultants, or something else? And a lot of organizations visited us to tell how great they were as a company and try to recruit students. And I did not know. I thought I wanted to be a consultant at that time because we didn't really talk about sales. And I didn't exactly know what a consultant did anyways. But we listened and learned from the organizations that visited us. And actually, I hope not my boss hears this, but when Atea was visiting my school, they asked, where do you want to work after you finish study? And I looked around and I saw a lot of boys just looking at the ceiling, yawning, not paying any attention. And I liked the people on stage from Atea. So I took a chance and I quickly raised my hand and I said, I want to work in Atea. But what they didn't know is that I had never heard of Atea at that time. I just saw an opportunity. I liked the people presenting, so why not? And then they asked me why. And I got a little insecure and I quickly added, I hear good things about the culture because every company talked about their good culture. And it was really my luck that Atea really focused on culture. And I then got my first position in Atea. I had a 3-month project position. I was going to call customers who visited Atea security days across Norway to get them to have meetings. And I was determined to do this job in an excellent manner. And some days I think I had approximately 200 phone calls to customers. And Atea saw that and quickly asked me to stay. I could work and study as worked best for me. And I did that for approximately 8 months, I think, before they asked me to start as a solution sales employee in the cybersecurity department. And I said yes. And I quickly noticed after a while that I had leaders in colleges that wanted me to succeed. They always put me in the front, and the picture here from this slide is from an article about unicorns in the tech industry, because it's such a rare thing to see women here. And I remember I was a bit scared. I wasn't that technical, and I was afraid to fail because I was surrounded by very smart people who really knew their stuff. And I was not insecure because I was a woman, but because I wanted to be the best from the first day. And I have never thought that being a woman would be an advantage or a setback for me. But one of my first encounters with a man from the partner side in Atea made me think more about that it sometimes could be more of a setback than an advantage. And that is because when I met him, he asked me what I was working with. And I said IT security. He then told me, wow, I will never forget it. You look more like a hairdresser. I asked quick how a hairdresser looked like. He then said, well, like you. And I had to make a point there. So I told him I was a bit surprised. He worked in this big company he was from. He asked why, so I told him he looked unemployed, and I think he took the point from then on. I then had one of my first customer meetings. I was to demo a product from Cisco, one of the world's largest networking companies, and I was prepared. I had high shoulders. I went in with a smile on my face, and my thought was, I'm going to sell this shit. And when I got in the room, the IT manager asked me where the guy that knew his stuff was, because he assumed I was the new account manager for his company. And as a new girl in the tech industry, I became reserved, unsure with his attitude. And the demo didn't go really good because he wouldn't listen to me. They, of course, never bought something. However, I think that's the day I decided to preserve, become the best, and never let anyone else's insecurities ruin my day. And that was not the last response in customer settings. Some customers have ignored me in my presentation. And if a consultant was with me in meetings, the customer could ask him the same questions I have already answered. And some customers gave me a bad attitude from the start. They weren't interested in what I had to say. And I remember especially one time I had a talk to a customer at a networking event. And I remember the topic was endpoint security. And I was excited. I'm a little bit special here, but I love endpoint security. He then stopped me from talking, and he started to talk about how pretty he thought I was with some of my tattoos. And I then knew he wasn't listening at all at my interesting topics about IT security. And I just turned around and walked away. I could have mentioned a lot of these meetings, but the point should actually rather be, instead of letting them put me down, it made me more determined to be smarter than them. And I did not have to work really hard to bypass that in some settings, to be honest. But I never even once thought about quitting or giving up. It just triggers something in me when I have these encounters. And after some years in Atea, I was much more confident, because most days you don't meet these companies that have this opinion. And I have had some meetings, and I was always prepared. And one day a colleague asked me to take a meeting for him because he was quitting in Atea, and no one had that much success with this customer. And I took the challenge. I talked to colleagues that knew the customer, and a lot of what I heard was that they were very good at solution. They were very technical. So they always asked what we in Atea could contribute with. Their minds was set in that they were better than us. So I prepared myself in case they saw me as an individual that did not know her stuff. And I thought I was prepared for anything that day. I remember I felt good. And they were a bit passive aggressive when I entered the meeting, but that's not because who I was, more that they were not happy with Atea or anyone else at that point. And I remember I had manned up for hours because everything I've heard about this company and the people that worked in it. So I felt kind of tough. And I told them that I knew more about the new technology trends than they did. So I would appreciate if they would just listen and hear what I had to say. And I promised them I would take action on the points they had mentioned. But now it was my turn to talk. And to this day, I talk to this customer on a weekly basis. And they trust me with everything regarding the network and security infrastructure. And I don't think the outcome would have been the same if they made me insecure and silent with their passive aggressiveness. But I was confident because I was prepared and I was sure about myself. And that made me feel great. And I was confident that I could do this. And as you can see, I've been in Atea for a couple of years. And I have most of the days I haven't met anything other than a big cherry group internal wise. Everyone cheers on me as a lady in the tech industry, and from time to time I have been unsure of myself. Um, but the gang here has always made me believe in myself again, and it gives me particularly good foresets. And I see how important this type of workplace have been for me and my way to success in the industry, because they have always put me in first place. They have always taken me out of my comfort zone to push me to the limit several times, which only actually makes me feel more mastery in my everyday life. So after 5 years in Atea, I got the sales manager role for the southwest region of Norway, and I think that's kind of cool. Um, a bit cooler that I know that my competitors was men, but it was men who didn't want it as much as I did. And I love that a colleague of mine told me that he loved the way I just went into a room and never thought about that I was a girl in a man's dominated industry, because I think this is important. As he said to me that day, it was like F the gender and see the person, the knowledge, and that's my thoughts as well. And I love that I see more of that in the industry now, 6 years later. Uh, However, that does not mean I don't face barriers to this day, because right before Christmas, I had a run through of a security assessment with a leaderboard in a company in Norway, and it went well. I had a lot of confidence after that meeting. They bought the assessment, and I was proud. Um, I'm always proud of helping organizations achieve better security. But one of the leaders in that leaderboard later told one of my colleagues that their first impression of me when I entered the room was, "What is this young woman in a skirt and red lipstick gonna teach us?" And when they understood that I knew my stuff, they admitted that their thought was wrong and they had to change their mindset. But they admitted it. And I think that's kind of cool to be able to see that you have an old-fashioned mind and that you have to change. And I have really good relationship to this customer today. And I think that's because they admitted it. But I think we have still a long way to go to be fully accepted in this man's dominated industry. And I really think that one of my advantages is that I never think people will ever think about that I'm a girl when I walk into meeting, even if they do. But I think that's not really my problem. I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to do it well, and I'm going to wear red lipstick when I do it. And I think that most of the important things we as human being needs is goals, goals that drives us, that makes us work a little bit harder, just to set a goal and start the journey to achieving that goal is the, well, a lot of people say struggle, but I will say fun. And I think, come on, how boring would it be to never set goals, never achieving something you want? I'm sure when you set a goal and work hard to achieve it, there's nothing that can stop you. And I think that also applies to every aspect of life, from family to education, finances, and so on. And I tell my boys this all the time: whatever your goals are, never let anyone else dictate that. If you want to be a YouTuber, you want to be a YouTuber. And work hard and believe that your goal is attainable, because it's a little bit of cliche, but the power of believing is big. And as my mom told me, the downfall is much bigger if you give up. You will never know if you would have achieved that goal if you just work a little bit harder, a little bit smarter, and so on. And like I also already said, it's okay to fail over and over and over again, but it's not okay to quit. And I think that's a thing you have to think about every day, because every human being wants to quit sometimes. And that aspect is not only in the tech world, it's whatever sector you're in. And to be able to succeed, I think you have to know yourself. What are your strengths? What are you comfortable with? What are your values? Because you have to work in a company that have the same values that you have. And take away gender. As I mentioned earlier, my strength is that I have never thought about me as a girl in the industry will be negative or positive for me, because the gender doesn't make me good or bad. But I have to be curious about the customer. Let them talk more than you do. Be curious about your field and never stop developing yourself. And have confidence and feel good about yourself and be motivated. If you do that, you will be a good advisor despite of gender and all the other bullshit that doesn't really matter at all. But let us just lead the way and never let such old-fashioned opinions and statements in any way actually define us and our work. And I think that's it. And I just want to say thanks for listening. I can't hear anything.
My
Yeah,
mute. I'm so sorry. I said you had such an inspiring talk. It was awesome.
yeah. Thank you, Carla.
And I see we have some questions already, and you also got some very nice comments in the chat.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to put one up. Do you think it's important to get a degree first if you want to work in tech sales, or can you learn on the go?
Sarah, I think that you don't need a degree if you have the right passion and values, because then you will learn. So no, I don't think you need a degree first, actually, but I think you need an understanding of the industry you're going to work in. I think that's important.
All right, let's see. Samina asks, if you could go back in time to the first day you started working at Atea, what advice would you give yourself?
Good question. I think I would have wished that I spent so much time with listening to everyone else's tell me what I should think, what I should do, what I should take my position in. And I think that just listen to yourself and follow your own gut feeling. I didn't do that always, and I wish I did that.
All right. Let's see. How many female co-workers do you have?
Good question, because in solution sales in all of Norway, solution sales and IT security, I have no female co-workers. I have female co-workers in different positions as project managers, leaders, account managers, and consultants and so on, but I'm the only female in IT security solution sales in all of Atea, Norway.
Wow. That is, I didn't realize that. It's very, I'm so proud of you, Anita.
Thank you, Carla.
How do you know a company has the values that they say they have?
good question. You don't know that actually before you have worked there for some time. And always check their values and ask them. And you just have to hope that they practice what they say. And if don't, find a new job.
Yeah, so true. If one doesn't change your own situation, it won't change. So if you're happy, move on. This one is from me because I struggle with this. How do you juggle work and family as a woman in
I
tech?
don't know, Carla.
Especially
Actually,
kids.
I plan. I plan a lot. I go to bed early. I wake up early, and I plan. And when I'm at work, I work 100%, 8 to 4 or 9 to 3, whatever. And when I get home, I'm with my kids. So I'm not that kind of person who works all day, 24 hours. But when I work, I work, and when I'm at home, I'm at home.
It's so
And that's
important.
that. Some days, if I'm busy, of course, I will do that at home. And sometimes my kids are sick, and I'm working at home. But in my everyday life, I plan, and I think it's important to have really a good structure and plan ahead. And yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's so important to differentiate between the two.
Yeah.
And I often find I don't always give my kids the time they deserve. And it's hard because
It's difficult.
Let's see, there's one more from Livia, and she wants to know, would you change anything from your journey so far?
No, I wouldn't actually, because I think that everything you go through teach you something. And I'm really glad I have experienced all of the negatives and the positives, because I think it makes me want to do even more and try even more to do my best. So no, I wouldn't change anything. I think it's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, one learns from both positive and negative. So true.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I don't know if anyone else have any other questions, but it looks like we've gone through them.
And if you want to, please just ask me questions on my LinkedIn profile. I forgot to put it on here, but you can send me messages. I will answer at any time, and don't be shy if you want some advice or need something. Just give me a shout, and I will answer.
Oh, thank you. And they just, maybe I should write your full name in the chat, so if someone is looking for you, they can go search for you. That's so kind. Thank you.
And I hope to see a lot of more women in the tech industry, and maybe in IT security as well.
Do you feel like if you have the qualifications as a woman, that it's quite easy to get a job in tech?
Yeah, if you have the passion, I don't think it's easier to get a job if you're a woman. But if you have the passion and the drive, and I think it's important to know, because we have all read like these ads on the internet. You have to have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. You have to have worked in 20 years and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Just don't care about that. Apply anyways, because if you're the right person, it doesn't care if you don't have that bachelor's degree or that master. Just apply.
Yeah. That is so true. I think they look a lot at character also.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, for listening, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for sharing your story. It's really inspirational.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you here. Let me just bring this back up. Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us today, and a big thank you to you, Anita, who took the time. I know you are really busy, so it's such an honor. And everybody, before you go, or the next thing that will come up is a little form. So if you have any ideas of topics we can discuss next, webinars you would like to see next, please fill it in. It's on screen now. And when you're done, feel free to go. Thank you so much for joining us. It was great to have you here.